Thomas and friends, making tracks to great destinations.
Dear Christopher, here is your friend Thomas the Tank Engine. He wanted to come out of his station yard and see the world. These stories tell you how he did it. I hope you will like them because you helped me to make them. Your loving Daddy.
The island of Sodor is surrounded by beautiful blue sea. It has fields of green and sandy yellow beaches. There are rivers, streams, and lots of trees where the birds sing. There are windmills and a coal mine, and docks where visitors to the island arrive. The island also has lots and lots of railway lines. Who's that puffing down the track? It's Thomas! Hello, Thomas! Hello, everybody! Welcome to the island of Sodor.
Brendam Docks is one of the busiest dockyards on all the island of Sodor. It's where ships and engines and cranes alike are busy day and night, every day of the year. But poor Cranky the crane never gets a nap. He never gets to sleep early. He works all the time. And his only company are the gulls that settle on his arm. So Cranky is always cranky. "Ahoy there, Cranky!" cried Salty. "Where have you been?" snapped Cranky. "And a good day to you too, Captain." Bill and Ben arrived for work, full of mischief. "Hurry up," snapped Cranky. "I haven't got all day." "You're no fun," grumbled Bill. "You wouldn't be fun if you were stuck up here," snapped Cranky. "So that's why you're cranky," said Bill. "You're lonely," said Ben. "I'm not," Cranky cranked. "So it's company you be needin'," said Salty. "Reminds me of a lonely old Grand Banks lighthouse keeper." "Not another one of your stories," cried Cranky. "Oh, please, Salty," they chimed. "We haven't heard it." "'Twas in the middle of a wee naughty storm," Salty began. "The likes of which you see once in a lifetime." This made Cranky very cranky. So cranky that he swung his arm around and dropped the pipes onto the tracks instead of the trucks. "Whoops," said Cranky meekly. "You've blown the main now, matey," said Salty. The engines were trapped. "You're gonna get into trouble," sang Bill and Ben. Sir Topham Hatt was in his office being measured for a new suit. When he heard the news, he left immediately for the docks. Sir Topham Hatt knew that any delay at the docks could cause trouble. You have made a terrible mess, Cranky, he said sternly. I'm sorry, sir, Cranky whispered. You engines will have to stay here tonight until Harvey clears up this mess in the morning. Cranky's heart sank as Salty uttered those fateful words. That reminds me of a story. It was a bitter, cold winter. The brave little ship was stuck until the ice melted the next spring. He barely made it round the Cape. After 100 scary days at sea without a scratch, he sailed into port and crashed his bow not 15 feet from my buffers. Luckily, no one was hurt. Except my ears, wailed Cranky. Salty spent all night telling tales of powerful storms, daring rescues, and brave little ships. And when the sun rose, he was still talking. And talking. And talking. I can't take any more, groaned Cranky. Harvey the crane engine arrived. Sir Topham Hatt sent me to help clear away this mess, he puffed proudly. Cranky was so pleased the engines would be going soon, he forgot to be cranky. I'll never misbehave again, he promised, as long as I don't have to listen to any more of Salty's stories. And after Harvey and the workmen had cleared the wreckage, Cranky worked hard all day. He carefully loaded the trucks, helped speed the engines on their way, and he said please and thank you. This is new, puffed Thomas, but he had spoken too soon. Cranky couldn't help himself. It was nice while it lasted, said Percy, and all the engines laughed. But Cranky was still cranky.
Thomas and James are racing to the wharf. Everyone likes to be the first, not second, third or fourth. Pistons pumping wildly, boilers fit to burst. There's something really special for the engine who comes first. Steaming through the countryside, imagine their elation. Speeding past the platforms, they're not stopping at the station. Racing under bridges and then rattling round the bends. A very special prize awaits a winner when it ends. Thomas and James are racing to the wharf. Everyone likes to be the first, not second, third or fourth. Pistons pumping wildly, boilers fit to burst. There's something really special for the engine who comes first. Children on the bridges waving as they both rush by. Going so fast, if trains have wings, you'd think they'd start to fly. Wishing and then whooshing, oh, but what's this up ahead? It can't be true, they'll have to stop, the signals turn to red. Come on, now win this race. I'll take a rest and set the pace. He's out of puff, he's out of steam. Hooray, hooray, the signal's green. Thomas and James are racing to the wharf. Everyone likes to be the first, not second, third or fourth. Pistons pumping wildly, boilers fit to burst. There's something really special for the engine who comes first. Thomas and James are racing to the wharf. Everyone likes to be the first, not second, third or fourth. Pistons pumping wildly, boilers fit to burst. There's something really special for the engine who comes first.
Oliver and Duck are great Western engines. They deliver goods and passengers when the roads are closed by deep snow. But Oliver thinks snow is messy and cold. I'm a great Western engine, he chuffed one day. I shouldn't have to shiver. Begging your pardon, Mr. Oliver, said Toad, but I think snow is splendid. Later, Oliver saw some children building a giant snowman for their winter festival. Each time Oliver passed by, the snowman grew bigger. And bigger. And bigger. And bigger.
Just an observation, Mr. Oliver. Snow is magical.
Oh. Finally, the snowman was completed. Oliver chuffed back to his warm, cozy shed. Sir Topham Hatt was waiting for him. "You have to return to the mountain village," he said. "Some goods are needed for the festival."
But all this snow makes my wheels feel chilly.
Really useful engines work hard whatever the weather. Soon Oliver was loaded and on his way. The snow was cold. It had frozen the points and diverted Oliver into the station sidings. "Oh, shiver my boiler!" cried Oliver. His driver applied the brakes.
Is there a problem, Mr. Oliver?
"Yeah, there is!"
That could have been a little smoother.
Oliver felt awful. He thought the children would be upset about their snowman. Oliver's driver went for help. Sir Topham Hatt was just leaving his office when he got the call. "Duck will bring the breakdown crane first thing in the morning," he said. Oliver's driver returned and told him the news. "I'll be out here all night," moaned Oliver. "I'm afraid so." Luckily, the village inn had a toasty warm room for Oliver's driver. But Oliver was getting colder and colder. His fire had gone out, and his funnel was covered in icicles. "I was right all along. There's nothing magical about snow. Brr." Toad was beginning to think Oliver might be right. Next morning, the children saw the situation. "Look," a little girl shouted. "Our snowman has eyes in its tummy." "No, it doesn't," laughed the little boy. "It's Oliver." That gave the children an idea. When Oliver woke up, he was surrounded by happy children. "Oliver's a wonderful snow engine," they cried. Oliver was so relieved that suddenly he didn't even feel cold anymore. When Duck arrived with the breakdown crane, Oliver didn't want to leave. He was enjoying the winter festival so much. "You were right, Toad," Oliver called. "There are some magical things about snow." "Perhaps, Mr. Oliver," shivered Toad. "Absolutely."
The island of Sodor is a wonderful place. Thomas enjoys puffing all over the island. There are lots of special places to visit. Where's this? That's right. It's Farmer McColl's farm. There are lots of farms on Sodor. They have fields of green grass and yellow waving wheat. At Farmer McColl's farm, there are cows and sheep and chickens. Thomas and his friends toot hello to the farmers and animals. One day, Gordon had to move cows to their new shed in Farmer McColl's field. Gordon was in a hurry. He moved away too quickly. The car doors weren't properly fastened. Luckily, Henry was waiting at a signal. He saw what was happening and knew just what to do to help. Henry chuffed off slowly towards the new shed. The cows followed. They were hungry. They munched on the hay on Henry's flatbed. Gordon learned it's better to be slow. Emily learned that too when she wanted to help Thomas. One night, Emily met Thomas at a signal. She had been to the carnival. Thomas really wanted to go to the carnival, but he still had a lot of jobs to do. Emily told Thomas she'd take his train to the farm so he could go to the carnival. But Emily didn't know the vans were full of chickens. Emily raced away. The chickens squawked and cawed, but Emily wheeshed on. Thomas caught up with her. He told her there were chickens in the cars. They must go slowly, he puffed. Farmer McColl's farm is very special for one engine. And that's Thomas. One day, Thomas had been working very hard. He had lots of jobs. He still had to take chickens to the market, sheep to Farmer McColl's farm, and the children to school. By the time Thomas had picked up the children, Thomas was very tired. And he was getting confused. So Thomas took the chickens to school, the sheep to market, and the children to Farmer McColl's farm. But the children had a wonderful day. They helped Farmer McColl, and they were very happy to be covered in mud and straw. So that's why Farmer McColl's farm is very special for Thomas. There are so many special places on the island of Sodor. Next time, Thomas will show us somewhere else.
Surprises, surprises, they come all shapes and sizes. You never know what's round the bend. It's might and light, it's might and bend. That's why there's surprises with all their highs and lows. You come out top, or come full stop. Who knows, who knows, who knows? You're halfway up a hillside and all is going fine. When all at once a snow slide comes right across the line. You think you're really done for, but help is on its way. You'd be surprised how often that someone saves the day. Surprises, surprises, they come all shapes and sizes. You never know what's round the bend. It's might and light, it's might and bend. That's why there's surprises with all their highs and lows. You come out top or come full stop. Who knows, who knows, who knows? Surprises, surprises, they come all shapes and sizes. You never know what's round the bend. It's might and light, it's might and bend. That's why there's surprises with all their highs and lows. You come out top, come full stop, shine and gleam, neat and clean. Take the mail, come off the rail. Who knows, who knows, who knows?
Dream on. Spencer is a very special engine from the mainland. He belongs to the Duke and Duchess of Boxford. He's very fast, very shiny, and very strong. He also likes to show off. Coming through! The other engines don't like that. One day, Thomas was shunting freight cars at Knapford Yards. Sir Topham had arrived. "The Duke and Duchess of Boxford are coming to Sodor with Spencer," he boomed. "Spencer will be very tired after his long journey, so you, Thomas, must help him."
Later, Spencer arrived. Thomas was still working. "Take my passenger cars and shunt them away," Spencer huffed grandly. "I will when I've shunted these freight cars," tooted Thomas. But Spencer didn't like waiting. "I'm faster, shinier, and stronger than you, Thomas. You're just a little tank engine." This made Thomas cross. But he remembered Sir Topham Hatt had told him to help. So, Thomas shunted Spencer's passenger cars safely into the sheds. When Thomas arrived back at Tidmouth's sheds, he was very tired. Spencer was already there. "Anyone can shunt freight cars," wheezed Spencer, "but you have to be very special to pull the Duke and Duchess of Boxford." This made Thomas very cross. "I'll show that bossy boiler," Thomas puffed. "Tomorrow I'm going to be faster, shinier, and stronger than Spencer." The next morning, Thomas had to collect freight cars from the smelters' yards. When Thomas reached the main line, he decided he would go faster than Spencer. Thomas puffed faster and faster. Thomas steamed past Emily. "Slow down, Thomas," she whistled. "You'll never get round the bend." Thomas slammed on his brakes. "Whoa!" tooted Thomas, terrified. Luckily, he stopped just in time. "Maybe I can't be faster than Spencer," he chuffed, "but I can still be shinier and stronger." Later, Thomas was at the washdown. "I'd like the shiniest polish ever," he tooted. Thomas was rubbed and scrubbed until he sparkled and shone. It took a very long time. Toby pulled up next to Thomas. "Look, Toby," whooshed Thomas proudly. "I've never been so shiny." Toby had an urgent message for Thomas.
You have to shunt stone at the quarry, he steamed. "They're waiting for you now."
So Thomas puffed quickly away. Thomas arrived at the quarry. "My," said Mavis, "you're the shiniest engine I've ever seen." Thomas was pleased. He puffed off proudly. Thomas's cars were filled with stone. All his sparkle and shine had gone. Thomas was very unhappy. He steamed off with his load of stone. Thomas came to Gordon's Hill. He had never puffed up it with such a heavy load. "I may not be faster or shinier than Spencer," tooted Thomas, "but I can still be stronger." The hill got steeper and steeper, and the stone felt heavier and heavier. Thomas's wheels started to spin. "Oh no!" cried Thomas. Stones tipped out of the freight cars. He slid all the way to the bottom. Thomas wasn't strong enough after all. Thomas felt very, very silly. "All day I've tried to be faster and shinier and stronger than Spencer," he wished, "and I'm not." Thomas felt terrible. Next morning, Thomas knew what he was going to do. "I don't want to be faster, shinier, and stronger than Spencer anymore," he chuffed. "I'm very happy to shunt freight cars." Then Sir Topham Hatt arrived. "There is an emergency," he boomed. "The Duke of Boxford has to return to the mainland on very important business. Where are his special passenger cars?" "His cars are right at the back of the yard, sir," puffed Thomas. "But don't worry, I can shunt them to the front very quickly." "Well done, Thomas," said Sir Topham Hatt. "Take them to Spencer immediately." When Thomas arrived at the sheds, Spencer's boiler was still cold. "You might be the fastest, shiniest, and strongest engine, but you're the slowest to get fired up," Thomas tooted cheekily.
Now it was Spencer's turn to feel very silly. Then the Duke arrived. "Why are you not ready, Spencer? I will miss my airplane," he said sternly. "Thomas, you must take me to the airport." "Yes, sir," tooted Thomas. The Duke's special coat of arms was placed on Thomas's boiler, and Thomas steamed grandly away. Thomas felt very proud as he raced to the airport. Thomas arrived just in time. Jeremy was waiting for them. The Duke was very pleased. "There's nothing better than an engine you can rely on," he said. "You saved the day, Thomas." Thomas watched the Duke's airplane fly away. Thomas knew he wasn't faster, shinier, or stronger than Spencer, but he was certainly reliable. And that was a very useful thing to be. The island of Sodor is a wonderful place. There are lots and lots of engines. Who's that puffing along the track? It's Edward. Edward is a very fine engine. He is blue with red stripes and has the number 2 painted on his tender. He is often called Edward the Wise. Edward always listens carefully to the other engines, but one day he listened too carefully to Gordon. Rocky the Crane had arrived on Sodor. Rocky was strong and powerful, but he had no engine. Another engine had to pull him. Gordon called Rocky newfangled nonsense. He snorted that Rocky may be new, but he wasn't really useful. Edward always thought Gordon was right, so he agreed with him. Later, Edward had to pull flatbeds of heavy poles. Rocky offered to help, but Edward didn't want the help of newfangled nonsense. So he puffed off quickly, before the poles had been properly tied down. Edward was so busy thinking about Rocky that he didn't see the red signal in time. He screeched to a halt, and poles tumbled all over the track. Emily and Thomas couldn't puff through. Then Gordon steamed onto the poles and came off the track. It was a terrible mess. Luckily, Edward is a wise engine. He knew that he and Gordon had been wrong to say Rocky wasn't really useful, and now he knew he needed Rocky's help. Edward brought Rocky to the poles, and Rocky cleared the tracks in no time. Rocky and Edward became firm friends. Edward is everyone's friend. One day, Edward was chosen for a very special. He was to pull the Duke and Duchess's furniture to their summer house. Spencer was to take the Duke and Duchess. Gordon and James wanted Edward to race Spencer. Edward couldn't let his friends down, but Spencer was faster. He overtook Edward easily. Edward huffed and puffed his hardest. The Duke and Duchess stopped to take some photographs. Spencer was so far ahead in the race, he decided to have a rest. So Spencer snoozed, and Edward puffed. He puffed right past sleepy Spencer and won the race. Edward felt so happy, his boiler bubbled. The other engines were very proud of Edward, and Edward was quite proud of himself. Edward is old, and Edward is wise. Wise enough to know that being a really useful engine is very important, and having really good friends makes every day on Sodor a happy day. Thomas and the Stinky Cheese. The island of Sodor is beautiful all year round. In the summer, the hedges are full of brightly colored birds. The fields are full of animals, and the smell of wildflowers fills the air. Thomas was at the coaling plant. He was shunting freight cars with Diesel, Ari, and Bert. Thomas didn't like working with diesel engines, and the diesel engines didn't like working with Thomas.
The problem with working with steamies is that they are much too stinky.
And Thomas is the most stinky steamy ever. Diesel, Ari, and Bert laughed and laughed. It's not steamies who are stinky, Thomas puffed crossly. It's the diesels. Just then, Sir Topham had arrived at the yard. Thomas, I need you to go to the dairy. There is a delivery waiting for you there. Thomas was happy to be away from the diesels. He was pleased to be going to the dairy. Maybe I will be taking cream to the chocolate factory, he tooted. But when Thomas arrived at the dairy, his freight cars were full of stinky cheese. Yuck, huffed Thomas. That's the stinkiest cheese I have ever smelt. You must take it to the docks before the ship leaves, said the dairy foreman. Thomas buffered up. Then he puffed to the docks with the stinky cheese. Bust my buffers, said Thomas. Everyone will smell this cheese for miles. Thomas saw Diesel waiting at a junction. Oh no, moaned Thomas. If Diesel smells how stinky I am, he'll tell everyone that I really am the stinkiest engine on Sodor. And I don't want everyone to think I'm stinky, he puffed. Thomas backed quickly along the track. Thomas, stop, the signalman called. If you go that way, you'll be late. But Thomas had already gone. Thomas raced through the countryside. No one will smell how stinky I am now, he chuffed. But then Thomas saw Ari waiting in a siding. Oh no, it's Ari, moaned Thomas. I can't let him smell how stinky I am. So Thomas backed quickly away and turned left at the next junction. Next, Thomas saw Bert. So this time he turned right. Wherever I go, there are diesel engines, chuffed Thomas. Thomas puffed backwards and forwards across the island. He wanted to stay away from Diesel, Ari, and Bert. But then there was trouble. Oh no, groaned Thomas. I'm back at the dairy, right where I started. Suddenly, Thomas saw Ari rumbling towards him. Thomas backed away as fast as he could. But he didn't see Bert pulling up behind him. Thomas bumped into Bert, and the stinky cheese shot into the air and splattered down all over Thomas, Bert, and Ari. Now we're really stinky, moaned Ari. The most stinky engines ever, groaned Bert. Ari and Bert rushed straight to the washdown. Thomas wanted to go to the washdown too, but Thomas's cheese was all over the track. What am I going to do? He puffed sadly. Then the dairy foreman arrived.
Thomas, there is another cheese load ready at the dairy. But you'll have to puff quickly, said the foreman. The boat is waiting for you.
Soon, Thomas was racing to the docks with a new delivery of cheese. Thomas could smell the stinky cheese.
Phew!
He wished. But he knew he had to carry on. Must get to the docks, he chuffed.
Oh, yeah! What a smelly delivery, wished James as he passed.
Even though his friends could smell the stinky cheese, Thomas chuffed on. When he arrived at the docks, Diesel was there being unloaded.
You really are the stinkiest steam engine on Sodor, Thomas.
He oiled.
Thomas has brought the stinky cheese, cheered the dock workers.
Well done, Thomas, said Sir Topham Hatt. Sodor cheese is famous for being really stinky. And this is the most stinky Sodor cheese I have ever smelled. You are a really useful engine.
Thank you, sir,
puffed Thomas. Now go to the washdown, added Sir Topham Hatt. Just then, Harry and Bert arrived at the docks. They were shiny, clean, and fresh from the washdown. Diesel, Harry, and Bert, boomed Sir Topham Hatt. Now you can shunt the stinky cheese. Oh, no, groaned Harry, Diesel, and Bert.
Hee-hew, puffed Thomas. What a stink!
He's the cheeky one.
James!
His fame, but lots of fun.
Percy!
Pulls a mail on time.
Gordon!
Thunders down the line.
Emily!
Really knows her stuff.
Henry!
Toots and huffs and puffs.
Edward!
Wants to help and share.
Toby! Well, let's